Well, let's get into the topic for this evening and our guest. So, our next guest, his name is Joe. He contacted me through Messenger a couple of days ago and told me an absolutely horrific story. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to let him tell us, but it's really enraging, and so we're hoping to get his message out. So, do us a favor, share this video, share the information once you have it. It's incredibly important, and it's heart wrenching, to be quite honest. So, without further ado, I'll bring in our guest Joe and introduce you to him. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Mark.
How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. Again, thank you so much for just having me on your program and, sharing about my son's story as well as being a voice for other people that are going through the same situation.
Yeah, you bet, man. My pleasure. And anything that I can do after this, by all means, I'll do it. Do us a little favor. Just give us a short introduction of who you are, where you're from, that sort of thing, so people have an idea.
For sure. So my name is Joe McRae. I have a family of five. Actually, we're a blended family. Joel and his other sister and brother live with their mom full time Monday to Friday. I see the kids on weekends. We're originally from Saskatoon, but moved to Melfort this past fall in 2020. And yeah, I'm a property manager in Saskatoon and working from home right now and doing what I can.
Very good. Thank you. Joe, you contacted me a couple of days ago and told me your story. I'm gonna let you tell the story from start to finish, and don't worry about taking too much time. Take as much time as you need, and to give us a real clear picture of what the heck's going on.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just take you back on when this all started. Back in April of 2017, we found out about our son's illness, and basically at the time, his mom and siblings were living in Debden, Saskatchewan, and so he came home after school one day and said, "Mom, I have a real bad headache," and basically after that he collapsed and she didn't know what to do at all. Like he just completely collapsed and was like unconscious, wasn't responding. So she called 911. They rushed him to the Shelburne Hospital, and the doctors looked at him there and said that he's got to get to Saskatoon ASAP. He looks like he's got a brain hemorrhage. And so rushed him to the Saskatoon Hospital, and basically I got the phone call, so I made it there. Found, was at RUH, walked into the emergency waiting room, and Mark, as a parent, when you see your kid lying with a bunch of tubes, not responding, almost like dead, it's heart wrenching. And
I can only imagine. I have three kids of my own. Thank God I've never had to go through that situation, but I can only imagine.
So basically, at the time, we didn't know what was going on. So they rushed him to get a bunch of CT scans and MRIs, and came back.
Sorry, somebody's asking how old, Joe.
At the time, he was 9 years old. He's now 12 years old. So anyways, at the time, so we did all these tests, came back. We found out that he's got what's called a AVM. And basically, it's a tangle of the abnormal blood vessels connecting arteries and veins in the brain. And the arteries are responsible for taking oxygen-rich blood back to the lungs and heart. A brain AVM disrupts the vital process, and it can basically, an AVM can develop anywhere in your body, but occurs most often in the brain or spine. Brain AVMs are rare, and they affect less than 1% of the population. So he basically was born with this, and we just didn't find out until the first incident.
Right.
So basically, from moving forward to that, he was in the hospital the first time back in April of 2017 for 25 days and intubated, breathing tubes. They had two tubes on the left and right side of his brain that were draining the blood off his brain because he had a brain hemorrhage. and totally unresponsive. And at that time, uh, there was no COVID, there was none of this crazy nonsense going on. So you could have family that supported you and that could be there for you during this crisis. And that was great. And, the doctor said that there was two surgeries. One was to get what's called a gamma knife laser surgery. And that's going to Winnipeg, where they, have this laser that basically destroys any roots or blood vessels that's hemorrhaging in the brain. And it's a day surgery and you're out and done. But he's got to recover first, in the hospital, and make sure he's okay and walking before he can go do that. So at that time, the doctor said, Joe, I hate to say this, but your son could not be able to walk. He could be paralyzed. He could be all these different crazy situations. And I'm a man of faith. So I just said, no, I appreciate that. And we're just going to pray for my son and family and going through this time. And it was a miracle, Mark. He bounced back within 25 days. The first time he, got the breathing tube off, he said to me, Dad, can I have a glass of water? It was just amazing. Just amazing story. And he bounced back. We went to Winnipeg within a month or two after and got the surgery done. And he was back home and everything seemed to be fine. He was back to school, had a lot of support from family and church and you name it. So, now moving to where we are now. So October 1st, 2020, the day before that was September 30th. It was my birthday. I got a text from my son saying, hey, Dad, love you. Have a great birthday. We'll see you on the weekend. And then I got a call from my Joel's mom and basically saying that you need to get to the hospital. This was October 1st. Joel collapsed at school outside the playground, and some kids found him laying like he was just gone. So he was rushed to the Tisdale Hospital, Mark. And again, I called my wife and we rushed to the Tisdale Hospital. And now this time we go in and, you're not thinking about COVID. You're not thinking about a mask. You're thinking, I need to get to our son as soon as possible. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Well, so we got, I got holded up by COVID questions. Have you been traveling? I said, man, no, I don't care. I have an emergency. I gotta go.
Right.
So that took like 5-10 minutes of our time. Went there again, same situation like I saw last time. I knew this was a similar situation because with this AVM, this can happen at any time, and you have to get CT scans every 6 months. And so before this happened, Mark, Joel was supposed to have a CT scan May of 2020, but due to COVID, it got canceled.
Naturally.
So, yeah. So basically, they would have found something growing the roots in the brain.
Right. So you're flying blind from that point.
No. Absolutely. So basically, get to the Tisdale Hospital, and he's on all kinds of tubes and laying there again, same situation. And they said, we got to get him to Saskatoon by air ambulance. And so I said, okay. So wife and I, we made arrangements with the other, blended family. We went straight to Saskatoon, and we're waiting. And this was about 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, he's got a blood on his brain, and he didn't get to the Children's Hospital in Saskatoon because of whatever delays that were going on till almost, I would say, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. So he's in there with medical professionals, but that blood is on his brain for 9 hours until he had surgery. So whatever kind of damage that could take place is serious stuff. So we get to the Children's Hospital, Mark, and again, all these crazy protocols for COVID. And you cannot, if you say you're mask exempt, they won't accept it. They will not accept it. So you have to just put the stupid thing on, and you go through, you do the protocol. And so my wife and I go there, and we said we're a blended family. So where can we go to see our son? And they said, well, because of COVID restrictions, only one of you can go in there. So it's got to be the dad and the mother. I said, but I'm a blended family here, guys. Like, no, so talked to another nurse. We were allowed to go up to the waiting room while we waited for him at PICU in the ward there. And doctor comes out saying it's the same thing that happened again. There's these roots and the damage and the blood hemorrhage, and signing these papers. Well, we were waiting, Mark, for 4 or 5 hours, waiting for results of what's going on with our son. And the other parties there as well. And we just like, what is the wait? And so I finally called the nurse, and I'm like, is my son in the PICU? Because I'm sure waiting an awful lot of time and don't know what's going on. Oh, she said, I can't believe they didn't tell you this, but we gave him a COVID test. And we have to wait 24 hours before it clears. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I said, what? You gave him a COVID test without our consent. Oh, no. When everybody comes into the hospital, automatically COVID test. I said, this is absolute BS. This is BS. So, they said, they come out and they said, look, Joe, I know this is tough. I said, no, you don't. You have no idea. No idea. I want to see my son. And they said, well, one of you, either the mom or you, can see them, but you have to stay for 24 hours in the room where he's at. You cannot leave until that COVID test comes negative. If it's positive, you're stuck in there until it goes negative. It was
I'm vibrating right now, Joe, as you tell me this.
Yeah.
I just man, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you did it.
It was the grace of God, man. Like my faith and just kept me going. So I said to my wife, I said, let's go. His mom's gonna stay with him overnight. And so I called the next day and I'm like, is the test clear? Is the test clear? Oh, we haven't got the results yet. This was at noon. Finally, around 1 o'clock, it became clear. So I immediately called the doctor. I said, I'm coming up with my wife. I said, we're going to see our son that's in the hospital. And I said, his mom is there. She wants her husband there and family. And I said, we're going to see our son. No, I'm sorry. We realize you're a blended family, but only you and his mom can go in there. And I said, this is absolutely crazy. Absolutely torrentious what's going on. So our family I was away from my wife, Mark, for 28 days. Well, not all 28 days. I was traveling back and forth from Saskatoon to Melfort, having to deal with kids that couldn't see their brother for 28 days in the hospital. They wanted to see him. That was denied because of COVID. So I get inside finally to see him when we had to rotate. Me and Joel's mom had to rotate shifts. We couldn't be there together. Sometimes we could, but other times we couldn't. And he's intubated, all this kind of stuff. And so I spent a lot of days and nights at the hospital while he was there trying to recover from this, AVM.
Right.
And basically, Mark, I asked the doctors and nurses, I said, tell me, since COVID, I said, how hard has it been on the families that have sick ones or loved ones in here?
Right.
And the nurse opened up to me and she was in tears. She said, Joe, I'm going to tell you something. She said, this is actually not as bad than what it was. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, when COVID first happened, if you checked into the children's hospital in March or April, whatever it was, we were on a complete lockdown, she said. So she said, Mother's Day, we had kids in here and only one parent could be here and you couldn't leave the room. They would bring you food. You had to be escorted to the washroom and back. You could not leave. And some people were in here for 3 months, she said, locked in a room, a cave, a prison. Jeez. And she said, we had fathers, we had mothers at the children's hospital parking lot waving to their kids, trying to, hold up signs, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. We love you. I mean, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it's just totally corrupt. So, So I want to share with your viewers tonight and people that are watching, that haven't really heard the story. You don't hear about,
No.
people that are in the hospital that go through this trauma during COVID, these times where you have to separate, where financially you got burdens and bills and hotel. I had to get a hotel sometimes for the kids for the weekends with my wife. Thankfully,
Right.
I had a lot of help and support from a lot of people and family outside of Saskatoon, but it was tough on our marriage, our relationship. My wife said, I felt alone, depressed. It was unbelievable. So back to my son, he woke. Basically, they took the breathing tube out of him. He was getting the blood drained out of his brain. So that was good. They pulled the breathing tube out, and if you met the kid, anybody that knows my boy, he's the nicest guy, polite, sweetest kid. He goes, "Dad, happy belated birthday." I wept. I said, "Buddy, you wish me a happy birthday." "Oh, I forgot, but happy belated birthday. I love you, Dad." And it was just,
you're bringing tears to my eyes right now.
you just fight for your kid, right? And so, he was asking questions. "What happened, Dad? What happened?" I said, "You had this, event that happened again, this AVM, and we've got a lot of people praying for you, and we just want to get you out of here." And he had to, go through all this kind of stuff. So he was in there for 28 days. But before he was released, he had to get a lot of these scans, MRI, CT scans, to check his, levels and stuff like that. And the doctor said, I'm having issues bypassing the COVID people. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, because he's been in the hospital and everything like that, they want to know if he's got headaches, if he's got high fevers, and he's considered a high risk. He's a COVID patient." And I said, "Doc, like seriously, the high risk, the fevers and everything like this is from his condition. It's not COVID. You and I know that, right?"
Right.
And so he fought that. We went past that. He got his X-rays, CT scans, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just been a roller coaster. So at that time, Winnipeg was completely shut down on lockdown. This was we got released October 28th. November, they were on a lockdown.
Right.
So I said to the doctor, I said, "Look," I said, "what's the plan with my son getting to Winnipeg?"
And this is the doctor in Saskatoon.
Yes, Dr. Mike Kelly. And I just want to back up before that. I forgot to share this. Is 2 weeks in, they were looking at the CT scan and the X-rays, and they came back to Joel's mom and I, and they said, "We have two options. I don't know if you're going to like the one option, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways." He said, basically, the one option that I could do is I could go in. It's in the middle of his brain where he needs to get this arteries out. He said, I could go in and manually do the surgery, but he said, I'm not confident. And if I'm not confident, I don't want to do it. He said, what happens, the risk of this surgery, your boy could be paralyzed for life, blinded for life, all this kind of stuff. And he said, I don't know if you want to take that risk. And I said, no, absolutely not.
Right.
So the next best option was a gamma knife treatment like he had again. And so I said, yeah, no, we'll do that treatment.
And that's in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Yeah. So I said to the doctor, I said, the neurosurgeon, I said, look, guys, I said, so they're on a lockdown right now. This is a medical emergency surgery situation. I said, well, how much time do we have? Well, we got to get him there like as soon as possible. So as soon as things open up or whatever, we'll let you know. We'll do what we can. That was back in October. So I waited all November, Mark. And, this is going, I see my boy, he's back to school and he's doing, he's recovered well. Everything seems to be going okay. But you don't want something happening again like this. And so you want to prevent and do what you can.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. yeah, it's been a nightmare dealing with it. So basically, at the end of November, I called and I said, "Look, guys," I said, "any word on getting to Winnipeg?" And they said, "Well, they're still on a lockdown. They have too many COVID cases. We can't. They won't let you go there." And I said, "Look, I don't care. I do not care about COVID. I will take the risk if I have to. This is my son that needs this surgery." And so, well, let's see what happens in January. So the new year
Oh,
happened again. I've been calling every week. I get the runaround. The
so
same.
is Winnipeg? Somebody asked in the chat, and I'm curious too. Is there any other city hospitals like across the country that do this
Yeah,
procedure? Or,
yeah, there is actually. I found that out probably about a month ago.
okay,
So there is Edmonton or Toronto that do these surgeries, and Winnipeg.
okay,
But when I was talking to the neurosurgeon, nurse clinical coordinator about this, she goes, "The reason why we can't have you over there is because Saskatchewan Health doesn't have a health program in Edmonton that will cover this, or Toronto, and the COVID numbers are way too high. So Winnipeg is your best option." And I was just like,
oh God,
this is getting beyond frustrating, beyond. So
but we're all in
I,
this together, right?
yeah, right. Like,
Oh,
and I'm thinking to myself, like, what do I got to do to twist someone's arm to get this moving? And so I was like I told you in my message, I was contacting MLAs here locally, and I contacted them, and he was so nice, understood, and was very sympathetic. But he said, "Joe, I'll see what I can do. I have, MLAs in Winnipeg. I have a friend that works at the hospital there. Let
right.
me get back to you." I follow up with them. I have no good news for you. They can't do nothing. It's a provincial lockdown. It's too many cases. Then the hospital, the nurse from the hospital was saying to me, "Well, it's not the provincial, it's the Winnipeg hospital. They're not even allowing anybody over there from out of province. So now you've got to deal with the Winnipeg hospital." And so I got all these mixed stories, Mark, about, it's provincial, it's the hospital. I was getting
Nobody
looked
wants to take responsibility, of course.
at, no, right? And so, you know, I'm a guy that, I speak out when I can, but I told my wife it's time to speak out. Enough's
So,
enough.
so what about hospitals in the States? Is that an avenue that you've looked at or sort of thought of? Because I'm thinking, I'm putting myself in your shoes, man, and I would want to do everything and anything I could for my kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've explored that as an option or if it is an option. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't really thought about states. I was hoping that this would be, you know,
Right.
taken care of here, right?
Right. I mean, we sort of grow up going through life thinking that, well, we have solid healthcare here in Canada and in Saskatchewan, and you never really plan to have to do something like this. So I completely get it. I mean, I'm wild inside right now.
Oh, yeah.
I can't
It,
imagine how you do it.
it's beyond frustrating. So what I did do, I wasn't getting anywhere with the local MLA. So I contacted the Premier Mo's office. I spoke with his secretary, and she informed me to send an email. They'll get it to the health minister department. Also to send an email to the Premier of Manitoba, Brian Pelsner, and his health minister, and see what kind of feedback you can get, and someone will be in contact with you. Well, yesterday I got a contact from the Saskatchewan health minister, one of the health ministers, and I had to sign a consent form before they would want to talk to me.
Mm,
I followed up. No, you're not talking to the right guy. Someone will call you back from our department. They got your number. Okay, fine. Received a call today, Mark, from the Saskatchewan, one of the health ministers, and She says, Joe, tell me your story. So I told her my story. She says, well, from our side, Saskatchewan is not restricting you to go travel to get what you need for your son.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know, that's what she's saying.
Right.
And I said, I'm not only, voicing this for my son, I'm voicing this for a lot of people. And I explained
Absolutely.
here, I said, there's all kinds of stories we're hearing right now that surgeries are being canceled,
Mm.
locally.
Right.
So I said, I don't know who to believe, you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
And so she said, well, no, she said, from our side, you can go, but it's probably Winnipeg's, restrictions that is stopping this, is blocking this. So let me come back and call you back with an update from my colleagues to see what we can do. So she called me again today. She
Mm.
goes, I talked to my colleagues, Joe, and they said, you got to get your doctors to push to talking to these politicians, because they should have some pull as to getting your son over there. They're a doctor. And I
Mm.
said, well, okay, I'll follow up with my doctor. I left a message with the local doctor today, didn't hear from him. Left a message with the Winnipeg doctor, got a call back from there today, this afternoon, and it was a very kind of a rude call from the from the nurse clinical coordinator. I left 2 messages, and she goes, I got your messages. Joe, I told you before, we are under a COVID lockdown. You're considered an orange zone category, out of province. So that means you're high risk for COVID. And we cannot allow you to come in, because your son, when it's a day surgery, he has to go around that children's hospital intubated, and he's a high risk for COVID for other staff members and other people around that hospital while he's getting these tests done. And I said, if he's intubated, how is he a high risk? Like, this is crazy. Like, we
Mm.
don't have COVID. We never had COVID. You know, then, she told me before we would have to take a stupid PCR test, a COVID test to get it negative before we could even get it in our step in there. If we were allowed to go, she said, you might have to quarantine after for 14 days. I
Yeah.
said,
Right. Mm.
14 days for what? And I said, even if the COVID test is negative, why would I have to quarantine? She goes,
Right.
that's the procedure here. And I said, and who's paying for that? Oh, that's you guys.
That's on your dime. Yeah. Sure.
You know, absolutely corrupt. Like, it's heartbreaking, because a lot of families like myself, I can't afford 14 days in a hotel with my son locked up.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And then when I talked to the Saskatchewan medical health officer today, one of them, she said, well, they recommend that you quarantine for 14 days when you're there, but it's not mandatory. You could fight it and get away with it, but out of courtesy, you would, right? I said, that's none of your business. No.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, yeah. So where I'm at right now is I have to, fight with the government of Manitoba to somehow get us over there. And I don't know, Mark. The nurse said we're having lesser restrictions coming out next week. They're supposed to be making this big announcement, so there might be good news. And so you could travel there. And I said, and if not, where are we at?
Yeah.
Well, if not, you're still waiting. And I said, for how long? Well, I don't know, Joe. I said, so you know what? I said, I'm so sick of this whole corrupt COVID stuff.
Yep.
I said, my son needs the surgery.
Yep.
I said, I know there's a risk. I'm willing to take it. So I said, if I have to keep waiting and get no answers, then I'm going to go and take a legal action here and get some legal advice, and a lawsuit might have to be taken.
Yeah, and I completely understand that, and I would probably be in the same boat. But this is about, lawsuits take forever, and
Yeah.
really, at the end of the day, how does it help your son right now? And I mean, he's been waiting already for 3 months. I would really consider flying your son. Somebody posted here, one of our viewers, St. Louis does it. So I'm just throwing it out there. There may be an option where you can fly your son there, and I know that money is tight, so I mean, I would throw up a GoFundMe page to make it
Yeah.
happen as soon as possible. So I'll work with you on this because it needs to be done. And of course, can't do it for everybody. And there's a lot of families in the same position, which is why I wanted to bring you on the show as an example of what's happening. But man, you're pulling my heart out here. So we got to get something done, and we will.
Yeah, and Mark, I was thinking too, I was thinking about a GoFundMe page, but I didn't want to just make it about my son. I want to
Yeah.
have it so that if other people are in the same situation like we're talking about that need critical care, there's funding for that, and someone can just administrate that money so that it's fair and it's not being, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark, when I talked to the Saskatchewan Health Minister today, she did mention about the states if that was an option. She said to you or to me, and I said, well, I haven't thought about it. She said it's very, very costly.
Right.
And I said, well, I mean, it is what it is. We'll do what we can do. So
this is just unbelievable. And so what about Edmonton now as of this stage? Has anybody looked at that, or they don't have an agreement with each other and that's why you can't go to Edmonton?
Yeah, and this is the flack I'm getting, or a mix-up of or lies, or whatever you want to call it. We don't have a program. We possibly could look at that option, but I don't know if there's funding for that. Well, I'd rather go to Edmonton in the States if that's an option, or Toronto. But
sure, right.
They said too many COVID numbers, too many COVID cases, so you'll get more flack. You can't go there until Winnipeg is your best option. And so when I was talking to the nurse in Winnipeg, she goes, I said, I heard the cases, you had low cases yesterday, 45 cases or whatever it was. It was breaking COVID, lower cases. And she said, yeah, and today we have 175 cases. We have 2 people that caught the second coronavirus, and it's spreading, and it's going to be a mess. So I don't know what to tell you.
And this was Toronto?
No, this was Winnipeg.
Oh, this is Winnipeg still.
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's one lie or one obstacle after another obstacle, and I'm fighting here, and I watch your program all the time, Mark, and I stand up for you and what you're doing, and we need to fight. We need to fight like nobody's business, and stand up to this corruption that's going on, because it's corrupt.
And it's actually killing people, and it's forcing a family like yours to have to. I mean, it must be just emotionally draining, Joe, for you have to. I mean, it's probably constant on your mind 24/7. I mean, he's literally, your son is man, I don't know.
Yeah, it's when we have him on the weekends, we just he's a precious boy. I mean, you do what you got to do for your son, and
of course. So you know what, I'm putting this all together, but we're definitely going to do something for you. We're going to I'm going to set up a GoFundMe immediately after we're done here, and share it out, and I'll put it in the description of this video, and we'll see if we can raise some funds. And like you said, it might be something that we can do not only for your family, but maybe a thing that we can do for other families in a similar position, because God knows there's a lot of them. I'm sure of it, obviously.
100%. Yeah, and there's actually another boy that is in the same situation as my son here in Saskatoon, waiting to go to Winnipeg, but is being told the same scenario. So
yeah, I'm just reading the chat here too, and I mean, lots of people are behind you and supporting you, want to help. So yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to find out about the option of going to Edmonton. I mean, again, I guess we would have to talk to Sask Health to see what the problem is, and find out exactly what's going on. But as far as I'm concerned, looking at it from your perspective and trying to put myself in your shoes, I mean, I'm going to take the first option that comes available, and if that's in the States, so be it. Here we go. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so it's about money. So we'll see if we can raise some. I'm going to reach out to Sheila over at Rebel Media.
Yeah, no, I
and see if she's willing to speak with you and have you tell their story or your story to them, to see if we can get this ramped up a little bit. Because and again, we got to deal with your son, and we're going to help, and then maybe it can be something that can help some other families too. So we'll do it.
Absolutely. I just want to add another, if I could,
Yeah, by all means.
situation that a lot of parents are experiencing right now during COVID, and whether you're for it or not, these kids are going to school, they're masked up, and that was one of my concern with my son after he got released. I actually I asked the doctor for a doctor's note because the school that he goes to in Tisdale, I've been fighting with the school board from day one on, my kids aren't wearing a mask. I'm against this whole thing. And I want them to be able to breathe and have fresh air. And they said, no, your son needs to wear a mask. I said, but he just had a major brain hemorrhage. He needs to have that fresh air. He goes, Joe, he needs to be protected from COVID. I'm not. No, he needs this mask.
Oh God.
And it just broke my heart, Mark. It broke my heart. So he goes to school, and I've talked to the head board of the Tisdale school, and they've given me so much flack regarding this situation that it's because of COVID, because of the restrictions, because of the health whatever act. And I said, but this is against constitutional rights here. You can't be doing this. You can't. Yeah, if you don't like it, take your kids somewhere else, or go homeschool, or do something. But we're protecting our kids here. You just it breaks.
Kids don't even get it. They're not protecting the kids. They're protecting their teachers and teachers union. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
From what? From a virus that has 99% recovery. That right. I mean, we could go on forever about this.
Oh yeah,
it's just phenomenal, man. I feel for you, and I admire you. I'm not sure I could have the composure that you have. So kudos to you, my friend. I'm coming unglued just sitting here. Like I just want to rip my hair out, whatever I have left.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I just appreciate you, Mark, and the influence that you've had around this country. Appreciate how you stood up for this pastor last weekend. I mean, I admire you for that. That was in Edmonton, and the chaos that happened there with Antifa and the whole, Yeah,
well, the thing is, Joe, this is why I do it. I mean, because I know there are families just like you everywhere across the country. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, it's going to get real serious real soon, where we're going to, exponentially, people in your situation are going to grow. This whole situation is going to fall in on itself if we're not careful. And this is what drives me. This is why I do what I do. So, Joe, I appreciate you coming on. It probably took some courage to finally say, you know what, I've had enough. I got to go public. I got to tell my story. So kudos to you on that as well. And thanks for joining us. I'm going to bring you back, whenever you want. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we can get an update. And like I said, I'm going to create a GoFundMe here right now. And everybody watching in the chat, stay tuned to my social media. It's going to be up there. Share it. Let's help this family and this young guy out. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate it. You're welcome, man. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and feel free to, like Mark said, just share this story. So. All right, my friend, stay strong, and love and prayers to you and your family. Thank you, man. God bless you. We'll be in touch. You bet. Bye-bye. Thanks, Joe. I can't imagine what that family's going through. I'm wired. I'm so pissed off. Anyways, stay tuned to Facebook, Twitter. I'm going to create this GoFundMe here tonight, right as soon as I get off this stream, and we'll get something happening. If anybody has any contacts, direct contacts to Sask Health, or Alberta Health, Manitoba Health, or can come up with some options in the States where we could raise the money and get this kid looked after ASAP, that would be greatly appreciated. Anybody that does, can you please email me at info@ffcs.info, and we'll get this little fella taken care of ASAP. I can't imagine having to sit there and wait and be told all this crap while at any time without this procedure, his son could die. I can't imagine. I'd be busting down doors. I mean, and you can't do that. I'd probably end up in jail. So again, I mean, kudos to Joe for what he's able to endure, and his family. It's a horrible situation, and yeah, we'll take care of it. We got to band together and do this. Yeah, good point, Joanne. Joanne says, I'm so angry about it, about all this crap. Mo can stop this if he wanted to. He's a premier, not Shahab. It's about time he started doing his job. He's either with us or he's part of the swamp. 100%, 1,000%. Great point. And it is. And I mean, all this stuff is bullshit. All of it can be avoided. It's all based on bullshit. It's based on PCR tests that they know is bullshit, that they've known was bullshit before COVID was a thing. I talk to people in hospitals across the country and throughout Saskatchewan, and they all tell me it's not overwhelmed by any stretch. It's similar to other seasons with the flu. And all of a sudden, this kid's going to die, potentially, because of political bureaucratic bullshit. We're all in this together. We're killing grandma. Fuck, I swear to God, I'm going to fucking lose it. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for tonight. I got to get busy and take care of some business. And do me a favor, guys, share this video out. This story has to be shared far and wide. I'm going to make sure that a GoFundMe is in the description. And again, that is on my backup YouTube. Because right now my main YouTube is, of course, suspended because I told a little bit too much truth. But I'll have it over there, and I'll post it on my Facebook, all the Facebook platforms I have, and of course on Twitter, along with this video. So I'm signing out. So thank you all so much for watching. We're going to get this little guy taken care of. This is where we got to come together and take care of business, because the politicians won't. They've abandoned us. And it's time we step up. So globalism bad, nationalism good. Ciao for now.